I'm Amelia.
And I'm JP. And this is Daisy.
And this is Alicia.
And we all say hola from Ecuador.
Hola from Ecuador. We wanted to share the story about how we got them here to Ecuador because we've had a lot of people asking us questions about transporting our pets, what it's like to have your pets here in Ecuador, in Cuenca, if there's places we could take them, talking about
how to transport them.
Yeah, all sorts of questions.
All right, so what do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about how we went through the USDA process to get all the certifications?
Well, I think we should,
I
because
know.
that's kind of how it all starts.
Let me get our notes here so we don't forget anything.
While JP's looking at notes, I will tell you that the dogs are wondering what in the heck we are doing.
Yeah, they're not quite sure what to make of this.
Alicia doesn't care because she's happy to be held, but
Yeah.
Daisy, she's like,
She's down here still.
Although she looks like she's about to fall asleep.
All right, the best advice we can give you to start out, the very first thing you need to do is to find a USDA accredited veterinarian.
Yes.
And we'll put a link to they have a finder, a little locator on their website. We'll put a link to that in the description and on the blog post as well. You need to find an accredited veterinarian, and they'll know how to work with the USDA to ensure all the paperwork is correct and that you get all the shots on the right schedule, and because there is a schedule that we didn't really understand.
Yeah, there is a schedule. There's requirements as far as certain vaccines that you have to get, and then you have to go to the USDA's office or the APHIS office. And
APHIS is part of the USDA.
And get all of that notarized. So it's really important you do your due diligence and check out that website, familiarize yourself, find your vet. Give yourself plenty of time. We ended up had to go back because we had to get a booster for the parvovirus.
Yeah, we had to go back to the vet. And the vet, they filled out all of the paperwork for us. And then they actually sent it over to the USDA office for approval before we even had our appointment.
Right.
So by the time because the USDA office was about an hour and a half drive from where we were staying with Amelia's parents in Atlanta. And so we certainly didn't want to waste a trip. It'd be 3 hours round trip. So everything was already ready to go when we got there. The timing on the shots is really important. You need to make sure you get that schedule laid out on a calendar because we were late on one of the shots. Was it rabies?
I think it was rabies.
I think it was rabies. And so we actually had to delay our trip to Ecuador by 2 weeks so that we could get the shot. And luckily, I mean, for us, not for millions of other people, there was a massive hurricane, Hurricane Irma, one of the biggest in years, delayed, shut down the airports and stuff. So we were able to change our flights for that trip without paying any fees. But we already had our flights booked and everything, and we couldn't leave.
Yeah, we didn't totally understand that. This is Alicia's doggy passport, officially called the Veterinary Health Certificate for Export of Dogs.
From the United States to Ecuador.
Yes, it's very specific.
The paperwork's very important. This is what's filled out by your vet, the accredited vet, and the USDA, and it's notarized, and you have to have that with you at all times.
Yes, and if you don't have it, your dog is not getting into the country.
Yeah, and go ahead, tell them what we saw in Guayaquil.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. This poor woman, she was so upset. She was trying desperately to get her dog actually into the United States, and she got the timing wrong on one of her vaccines, and they were not going to let her on the plane.
They would not let her on the plane to go back.
Well, they wouldn't let her dog on the plane to go back.
They would not let her dog on.
Because they said what would happen was then when she got to wherever she was going in the U.S., they would have refused the dog, and
they would have sent the dog back.
Yeah. We took Alicia first, so we took our dog separately. Alicia, being a little tiny poodle, was able to be carried on. So we got a soft side little kennel for her, and I was able to put it underneath the seat. She did not like that at all.
Not at all. She was like a caged tiger.
Oh my gosh.
And the vet had given his doggy Xanax.
Yeah.
And it did not work. It made her worse. It just made her really hyper and fearful. And so when we got to Miami, the woman behind us told us that we should try Benadryl. And so when we went into the Miami airport and got some Benadryl and gave a tiny pill to her, and that knocked her out for the trip, and she was fine between Miami and Guayaquil.
That was a relief.
Yeah, it was, she was really bad on that short flight from Atlanta to Miami.
And that was partially our fault. I've never kenneled her. So
no, she's never been in a kennel.
Yeah, she's not used to that. So if you've got time and definitely get your dog adjusted. It'll make your life a lot easier. And do not assume that the Xanax is going to cut it.
Yep. So the reason why we took them separately is because we came down here first in September, and it was too warm to fly Daisy at that time because Daisy was too big to carry on, and the airlines had recently made their policies for support animals more strict, and we couldn't get a certificate. Well, we didn't even try. But they had changed the rules to require a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist to basically sign off that she's for a legitimate mental health reason, and we didn't have that, and so we just opted to check her, but we couldn't because it was too hot.
Yes.
And also, it's important to check that with the airline because the airlines have different requirements for different breeds of dogs, different sizes of dogs. Like pugs, they don't want to fly pugs even as a carry-on. And then check dogs, they have to be a certain size. The kennel has to be a certain size. They have to be able to turn around in the kennel. There's all kinds of requirements. The kennel has to have a specific type of screws that connect it. So I had to order those separately. So we went back 3 months later in December to get Daisy, and it was too cold.
I know.
There was a freak storm that came in. The temperatures plummeted. We had a blizzard in Atlanta.
Yeah, it was 8 inches of snow in Atlanta.
We had 8 inches of snow in Atlanta, and it was too cold for Daisy to fly from Atlanta to Miami. And additionally, the airplane that they had us booked on from Atlanta to Miami was too small and wouldn't allow a pet carrier.
Right, not one Daisy size.
Not one Daisy size. So we had two things that kept us from actually flying from Atlanta to Miami. So we rented a car and drove. And we called the airline. We had to change the tickets, and we told them we just don't want to take the leg from Atlanta to Miami. We just want to keep the other one. And we had to keep calling back.
Oh, they were so
unhelpful,
and because they wanted to charge us.
Yeah, they were going to charge us an extra $1,000 just to not take one of the flights.
Yeah.
And they said we have to change everything, the whole itinerary.
Yeah, it was stupid.
It was stupid. And then we finally called back, and we got a wonderful woman who was from Quito.
I know.
And she got us $600 back.
Yep, we got travel vouchers.
So she fixed it all and gave us travel vouchers for $600. So not only did it not cost us more, it saved us a bunch of money. She was so nice and understanding, and she's a dog lover, and she was so happy that we were moving to her country.
Oh yeah, that was
really,
crazy.
Really excited to help us.
When we arrived at the Guayaquil airport the first time with Leisha, the customs people, I don't even think they saw her.
Yeah,
they weren't paying any attention. They didn't ask for her doggy passport. We just went on through and on with our lives. That was not the case when we landed in Guayaquil with Daisy. Daisy came off
the luggage
conveyor belt.
Amelia kept running around frantically asking,
I was so stressed.
Where do we find Daisy? Where do we find her? And they kept pointing over to where the luggage comes out. We're like, where? We don't see where.
It never occurred to me that they would have put her on the conveyor belt, but they did.
And then as we were frantically searching for her, she came out on the conveyor belt, and everybody was like, oh, so cute. And Daisy was not happy.
She was not very happy with us.
No. She wasn't, but we got her off the conveyor belt, and we had to go through, and they checked all of her paperwork, and they had clippers because they zip tie the kennel shut.
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
And so they had clippers for us to get the zip ties off.
Yeah, and so you had to go in a separate room. It's still in the same area and get all that done. It didn't take that long.
No, it was only a few minutes. It was pretty quick.
Yep.
And then we went over and we got a cab, and they took us over to this hotel we had reserved. We'd stayed there before, and it's a tiny room hotel, barely big enough for the bed.
It's all about convenience.
It was close to the airport and only $35 a night, nice and clean. But when Daisy got in there, she would not even look at us.
Oh my gosh, she was mad. I don't think I've ever actually seen her mad.
She was so
that
mad.
Before. It was funny. I wish we had a picture.
I know. I wish we had a picture now, because she was laying with her back to us and her face in the corner. And we were like, Daisy, what's the matter? And she gave us the slow motion head turn, and man, the look on her face was like, you ripped me away from Grandma and Grandpa's house for this place?
After everything too, and getting, driving to Miami and having to take her into the airport, and she was afraid, of course. Yeah. And we were, we were both nervous wrecks, knowing our baby was in the the baggage compartment of an airplane.
Yeah, we
and
were
is she
nervous.
afraid? Is she cold?
Well, it's not really the baggage compartment of the airplane. They do put them in a pressurized temperature controlled section.
Yeah, you're right.
Of the underneath of the airplane.
But I was still scared.
Yeah. And it's still, a lot of people say it's really dangerous to fly. It's actually more dangerous to ride in the car from the airport or to the airport. Your dog is much more likely to die in a car wreck on the way to the airport than in an airplane. And there is no other, it's the safest way to transport them.
Yeah, we did. Remember,
other than
we
walking.
looked into an air, I'd forgotten, we totally looked into
An air
the travel pet service. And that was going to cost like $3,000
It was
or something.
$3,000 to get her here. The cost to bring her was like $150 on the airplane.
Yeah, or
something
$200,
like
something like that.
Yeah, and they were going to fly her. It's not like they were going to walk her here. They were going to put her on an airplane and fly her. We're like, well, we don't want her with some stranger. We want her to be with us.
Yeah.
So we just did it ourselves.
So anyway, Edwin picked us up. We got to our house, and then as soon as we came in, she knew she was home.
She did. She was like
all was forgiven.
So happy. She ran around and the whole courtyard, the whole house, sniffing everything.
And of course, Leisha was already here, so she was, had Leisha's smell and her sister.
She knew she was home, and she loves it.
Yes.
In our rental house tour video, we talked about how we had to find a house that would allow a large dog, because Daisy at her 30 pounds is considered a large dog here. And so we talked about that in detail, so we're not going to go into that again here. But suffice it to say, we did have to find a house that would allow her.
Yep, keep that in mind.
Yep. And as far as Cuenca being dog friendly, I would say it's very dog friendly. Lots of people have dogs, and they take them everywhere. You can, if you want to take your dog to like a pub or coffee shop, any place with a patio pretty much will allow a pet. So we like to go to Inca. That's one that has a nice patio. Fratello has one. Goza. Lots of places will allow you to bring your dog, and some of them even have water bowls out for them. As far as hiking goes, you can hike with them all over town. I mean, there are trails along the river. There's parks, and you can take your babies with you on any of those places. The national parks don't allow pets, at least not the ones that we've been to. And that's mainly because there's so much wildlife. It's the same in the States. Like, you can't take your dog to Rocky Mountain National Park.
Right, exactly. So one of our subscribers asked why Leisha doesn't go for walks. Well, let me tell you. Leisha is 17 years old. I adopted her when she was 8. She was a puppy mill dog that was used as a breeder dog, and she never was leash trained, and she just didn't really like going for a walk. And I would try her to walk her, and she'd go for a couple steps, and as soon as she figured out what was happening, she would just put on her little brakes, and all 4 legs would go out. And this little 9-pound dog can be pretty strong. Yep. So I just gave up.
And then she would eventually just go all 4 out like that, and so you'd be dragging her like a rug. Yeah.
I would end up carrying her. Neither of us wanted to do that. Yep. And she doesn't want to go. She just doesn't want to go.
No,
she wants to stay home. She's old and tired, and she's content being carried or held, preferably just held. And
Daisy doesn't go on a lot of walks with us anymore because she's 13, and she just can't go for very far anymore, unfortunately. So we don't take her on our longer walks, but we walk her every day around our neighborhood and along the river sometimes. Yep.
And they get their play dates.
As far as dog parks go, we haven't heard or seen a single dog park in Ecuador.
I don't think they have the traditional dog parks that we think about when we are in the United States. I did see a thing in Gringo Post that Parque Paraíso was voted the best dog park. The thing is, most people here, they keep their dogs off leash. They don't have leash laws in Ecuador, or at least in Cuenca. And like you were saying, JP, where we had Maxie's birthday party, isn't that the area?
Yeah, the island. Yeah, there's an island in Parque Paraíso with the 2 bridges on and off of it, and so a lot of people take their dogs there and let them off leash to run, because the only way out off the island is across the bridge, unless they're swimmers. If you have a water dog, there's lots of ducks and geese. They might have a ball. Maybe too much fun. So that's a good place to go if you want to take your dog off leash and they're well behaved and come back to you. Daisy is a flight risk. The only time I took her off the leash, she ran all the way home through traffic and everything, just at full speed. We couldn't even catch her. As far as transporting your animals here in Ecuador, a lot of the cabs will transport dogs. You can just wave them down, and if they stop, they'll take them, and if they don't, they won't stop.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we couldn't find anything about taking them on buses. I doubt that you could take them on a bus though, but I don't know.
Edwin takes dogs. Jessica, our groomer and doggy sitter, comes and picks the dogs up and drops them off for us. And a lot of people do offer that type of service.
We're going to record another video talking about our vet here, which is Cuenca Animal Clinic. If you need a vet, they're fantastic. They speak English and they love animals.
Yeah.
Maxie's Pet Care, you met Jessica in the Maxie's birthday party video. She does our grooming and our doggy sitting when we're gone.
The girls love her.
Yeah, and we'll put links to all of their information in the description below. But we're going to talk about them in more detail and do some interviews with them in a future video.
Yeah.
If you have any more questions about pets here or bringing them here or living with them here, just let us know and we'll hopefully be able to answer that in that video.
Hopefully so.
Yes. Is that it today?
I think that's good.
My back's killing me sitting here, so we got to go.
Leisha and I are quite content.
I know, they're happy. All right, thank you again for watching, and please remember to subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified of our future videos, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao. Say ciao, Leisha.